Welcome, Nairi, and welcome, Mike.
Hi, Kenny. Yeah, good to be here.
Good to see you. Hi, Nairi. How are you?
Doing fine, thank you. Sun's shining at last.
Yeah, we've mixed weather here. I believe you were at Harley-Davidson in West Coast yesterday.
Yeah, in Glasgow. For their Beauty West celebrations. So that was good. The 120th, celebrations, as well as their third year in a row for best UK retailer, dealership. So
they're flying there at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, totally. So it's great to be a part of it.
Thank you very much for joining us today. I'm Jaredless because he is on his way back from Budapest on the bike, so he'll be here in a few days, no doubt. But what I'd like to do first of all is ask about yourselves, Mike. If I can start with you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your biking background and whereabouts or whenabouts you got involved in Harley-Davidson?
Yeah, I was always going to end up on bikes because my dad and his brother, my uncle, they set up the Loch Lomond Club in Scotland in 1948. A lot of my aunts were involved in it as well. So yeah, biking was always there. I got my first bike out of a scrapyard at the age of 13. And a guy used to drive an old 45 past the bus stop when I was waiting to go to school. That kind of got me going with Harleys, started reading about them, started getting easy riders, stuff like that. And over the years, I got my first one, an Iron Sporty, in 1985, and met a guy that was bringing the bikes in. So I did deals with him, imported bikes, sold them pretty much, well, not all around Europe, but mainly kind of Norway, Sweden. So I've had... not every one. I haven't had a flathead, but I've had knuckles, pans, a lot of shovels, Evos, Sporties. I had them all, really. So regarding the Cottage, a local guy to the Cottage told me that they were going to be knocking the Davidson house down. So I had to go along and see what this was about. And it was a developer that was going to build a new house at the time. He built two and was going to build a third one on that site. So it was there for being knocked down, and I just felt compelled to not let that happen. So myself, Maggie and Keith decided the only way we could do it, we had about a month before the bulldozers went in, so we made an offer which was accepted. Then we had to find the money, so yeah, went out on a limb to do it. Then spent quite a while restoring it back to how it was when the Davidsons lived there.
Yeah, because it really was. It was in quite a state of disrepair, wasn't it, when you first got it?
Was the roof had gone and all the timber obviously had gone. I thought I was dealing with four walls at one time. We had everything cleared out, all the timber out, all the slates, all the floors up. Then the stonemason said that one of the gables had to come down because there was ivy growing through it. So we're down to three walls and then started from there. But everything went well from there. I had a great bunch of guys working on the Cottage, really good skills. And yeah, it took a year to do. And I mean, people were coming even before we started on it with a guy from Sweden, knew all about it, knew the history and everything. But we've had people from all over the world since then. Furthest away, probably Tasmania. Most obscure, maybe the Azores. But yeah, they come from all over. This year we've already had a bunch of guys from West Provence. So yeah, it's become a bit of a Mecca for folk. They do find it, whether it's on online or through word of mouth. People find it and they just love visiting it and saying that they've been there where it all started. Which is actually what Jochen Zietz said when he was here a couple of years ago to launch the Sportster S. He said, in fact, signed a visitor's book along with Bill Davidson and said, it's great to be at the place where it all started.
Yeah, on that, actually, I'm just going to play a wee clip here, which was from the launch of the Sportster. And even though I watched that in its entirety, the whole Cottage thing completely passed me by, which is incredible. But take a look at this.
Jochen, I understand that you're in Scotland, and just wanted to welcome you to my country. I hope you have an amazing time there. There are some of the best riding roads in the world in Scotland, and so I hope you've got your Harley with you and that you're going to get some miles done out on the roads. Really have a great time, and welcome to Scotland.
It's so great to be in Scotland.
Oh man, what a beautiful ride through this beautiful countryside. It's amazing to be here, Jochen. This is a pretty awe-inspiring, emotional experience for me. My ancestry is here.
Think about that it all kind of started, with your great-great-great-grandfather in Scotland. If he had not gone to America, wouldn't have happened.
It would have been a different story. It's a labor of love, the restoration, the fact that they preserved it for riders from all around the world to come and enjoy and spend time here. Pretty awesome.
Pilgrimage back to the roots.
Heritage is so powerful, and it's really unique to our company, which I'm so proud of.
Yeah, well, and it's so great to combine it, going back to the roots and then launching a new bike, which has a whole history on its own. Actually, I was looking at the dates. If you think about it, they left for America in 1857. The first Sportster came to market in 1957, exactly 100 years later. And now we're here over 60 years later and are launching the next Sportster. It's quite extraordinary.
Can you tell us exactly what the connection to Harley-Davidson, this Cottage is, and a wee bit of the history?
The easiest way to explain the connection is that the father of the founders was born in the Cottage. That's William C. Davidson. He built the shed where his three sons, along with Bill Harley, started the company in 1903, incorporated in 1907. But yeah, he was 11 years old when his parents went over to the States. And he was a carpenter, and we've actually spoken to one of the Davidson relatives who has some of the furniture that he made. She's over in Milwaukee. The sons then worked with timber as well. They became pattern makers for the railroad in Milwaukee, and Arthur became a good friend of Bill Harley. He stayed fairly close by. Bill Harley at the time was working for a push bike manufacturer. The pair of them used to go fishing together. That was the main thing. And they used push bikes to go to the lakes. And when they saw a demonstration by Merkel in Milwaukee, showing them a combustion engine in a push bike frame, they decided that that was the best thing they could do, was to build their own just to go fishing. So that was the driving force of building the bikes in the first place.
Yeah, and I don't imagine they had any idea at the time where this was going to go. Was it a commercial idea that they were looking to do this, or was it literally just to help them go?
It really was just for going fishing. According to Jean Davidson, she's kind of the family historian. She's written a lot of books about Harley-Davidson and her life within Harley-Davidson. So no, it wasn't a commercial venture in the beginning, but there was so much going on. These are early days, pioneering days of engines and push bike frames. The first one they built, in fact, the engine was too small. It wouldn't go up hills. So they made one twice the size, about 440cc. It broke the push bike frame. So they thought, right, we better build a frame. So it was a kind of process of working through all the technology that was available at the time. to make a decent bike. Then Walter, he proved the machine was really reliable. They entered endurance races, and he won a lot of them. He got bigger scores than anyone, kind of thing. And that's why folks started to say, "Well, I want one of these machines."
I mean, I said in the introduction there that you've really got to dig around to find the Scottish connection, because obviously Harley-Davidson to everyone is American, but it's actually there's a lot more than just the grandfather and the father from Scotland, isn't there? If I remember it, or if I've read rightly, William C. Even though he was in America, he didn't marry an American girl, did he?
No, he met a girl from Stirling in Scotland, and they married. So yeah, that was, that makes it entirely Scottish kind of thing. His offspring, but also there's another Scottish connection. Their uncle put the money up for them to get started. They were saving, the guys were saving in a jar in the shed to try and buy, more bits to build bikes, and it was stolen. So their uncle, he put the money up with a promissory note, which is actually in the museum in Milwaukee. I've held that in my hand. It was quite an experience just holding it and realizing what it represented. It's a small piece of paper, but yeah, that was their honey uncle. He kept bees, so they called him the honey uncle. And also at the same time, Jim Frick at the museum, curatorial director at the time of the museum, he said someone else has come in, and this was stuff coming in from the Harley family. And he went away, he came back with an A4 sized blueprint, and he handed it to me, and I'm looking at it, and I read the bottom, and it was signed by William Sylvester Harley. It was his first ever drawing of an engine, and it was full size on an A4 sheet. That was the first engine, which was, I think it was 220cc or something. It was far too small. But that was in 1901. He had drawn this engine up. Another interesting fact, which I'll bore you with, is that Ole Evinrude from Evinrude Outboard Motors worked in the same place as Arthur Davidson. And Jean's got a really good picture in one of her books of them standing there as pattern makers with a wooden wheel for one of the locomotives. And Ole Evinrude's there. He helped the guys to sort the carburation for the first engine that they did. He had sorted it out on an outboard motor, but he helped them out with getting the carburation right.
I was going to say, speaking of books, we got given a book from West Coast Harley-Davidson, gifted to us to either raffle or keep at the cottage, and it was the book from Gene Davidson. And so I'm just wondering if that's in there, because the cottage also features in that book, and there's a lovely picture of you, Mike. But yeah, in their visit. So this case, it'd be worth getting Gene's books.
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, what I'll probably do actually is, because I know that Jean is the historian, I'm going to include links to her books for anyone that is interested, because prior to sort of really looking into this, I, like many other people, thought it was the American dream and the American brand. But as it turns out, the link to not only the UK, but more specifically Scotland is absolutely huge. So going back to the actual cottage itself, you said that you were eventually dealing with just 3 walls and nothing else. Obviously, it's restored now. Were you able to use the original slates and the original brick? Was any of that salvageable?
The original stone was reused. There was no stone brought in. The wall that was taken down was carefully taken down. I wouldn't say it was put back brick for brick or stone by stone in the same place, but it's the same stone. The roof is made out of Carmiley stone, very, very heavy, and originally was just pegged on. we had to bring in some from older buildings in the area because there was too many of them broken, too many of them not sound enough to go back up. But we still have quite a lot of slates from the original roof. There's actually one engraved, and it's in the museum in Milwaukee. There's one at the rally point in Sturgis, just above the Harley-Davidson logo.
Yeah, I was just going to ask. I was going to ask you about those. So the one for over in Harley, I was aware of, but I was completely unaware of the one for Sturgis.
Yeah, we sent one over. In fact, it was quite good the way it went. We sent it from Aberdeen to Aberdeen in North Dakota, and Matt Olson, who's quite a famous bike restorer and builder, he mainly does pans, knuckles, some side valves, and his daughter races bikes with Billy Lane and people like that. We sent it over to them, and they rode it down 350 miles on knuckleheads and panheads, and presented it to the mayor of Sturgis, and then it was put on the plaza. So yeah, it's right at the rally point there, and this was for the opening of the rally point.
Yeah, there's it really is some story. You're talking about the roof slates being pegged. I think there's a picture on your Facebook that shows all of the slates all stacked up, and you can see the single peg holes through them all. But they looked in quite good order. But if you're saying obviously there was quite a few that were broken.
Yeah, because it's it's like a sedimentary rock, so they sheave off like slates. But once they're as old as that, a lot of them just crumble, and you need a nice edge at the bottom, and a lot of the edges were chipped off, and I just wouldn't use them. But we managed to find some a blacksmith shop about maybe 5 miles as the crow flies, about 5 miles away. So we managed to get it done properly.
Very good. And then the inside, there was a picture of a fireplace, and you can tell by the lighting that you'd taken the picture while the roof was completely away. Was that fireplace kept, or did you have to get a restoration from somewhere?
We've still got that fireplace, and the guy that put in the fireplaces that we managed to get, it took a year to find one that was a local one. That one was sold in Dundee, and of that age. It's a contemporary one so it could well have been in the cottage, but the original one was burnt out. It was paper thin in places, but we took it out, and it's sitting in a crate at the moment, and perhaps the preservation group can do something for charity or do something. I'd like to see it. We've been offered money for it, obviously, over the years, but I'd rather see it go into a good cause. I'm sure someone would like to have it as an ornament somewhere, but we kept the original tap off it. It had kind of hot water tank that you could turn a tap and get hot water from it. So that's the original tap that's on the current one. But the rest of the stove's there.
Harley-Davidson themselves, have they shown much interest in it?
Yeah, the kind of interesting the way it's quite hard to get in touch with Harley-Davidson. You can try emails, you can try all sorts of things. I actually ended up writing a handwritten letter and sending it to Juno Avenue. And it would have been about 2 weeks later, my mobile rang, and I answered it, and the guy said, "Hi, it's Mike Davidson here. Oh, you found my ancestral home." He was working for the company at the time. He runs an art gallery in Milwaukee now, I think. But yeah, he was over the moon that we'd found it. It was then passed on to Martin Gins, who was like the global manager for Harley-Davidson. And he kind of looked after us from there. We went over a couple of times, met Jean and her son John. We actually met Arthur Harley-Davidson. That was brilliant. He was 96 years old when we met him, and he had some he had amazing stories of early days because his father started the company. The reason I went over there, a lot of people ask that, and it was actually Sandy, William's father. He was the right. He worked in the blacksmith shop next to the cottage. His mother-in-law stayed 5 miles south of there, and her husband had died. She had 2 kids, and she decided to make a new life in America. And I always say this is the only reason that Harley-Davidson are in Milwaukee, and it's because she ended up in Milwaukee, or just outside Milwaukee. She set up a trading post there, and she dealt with 5 different tribes, according to Jean. And she wrote a letter back to Sandy and the family saying, if a man can do an honest day's work, then America's a place to be. Now, Sandy was quite secure. The family was secure. There was Sandy, Margaret, and 6 kids at the time. They actually had 8, but 2 died young. But to actually have the business, he was self-employed. He employed 2 people who were also staying in the cottage, 10 people in there in 1851 census. But he had to lock the door and take a chance on jumping on a boat and going over to America to start a new life. He was 52 years old, so it was quite a thing to do.
The interesting part for me is the fact that, Sandy was 52, and that was, a really good age to reach in those days. I mean, most people lived sort of mid-40s, and that was it. And I might be wrong here, but I think Mike's told me is that, Sandy then went to live for another 20 years, after reaching America. So that whole lifestyle change and, weather probably helped.
So, Larry, I'd like to bring you in actually properly. So, Mike and Keith and Maggie were involved in the original purchase of the cottage. They were the ones that, through a real labour of love, got it to where it is today. And I understand now there's aspirations for development of this cottage, as in its use and its functions, etc., which is where you come in. So you are the chairperson of the Davidson Legacy and Preservation Group. We know your name is Nairi, but apart from that, we don't. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Hi, I'm Nairi. That's it. It's nothing else. No, I'm kidding. So let's see. I've been riding for over 30 years. First got involved, not as glorious as Mike's stories. Mine was about boys, and there was a bunch of guys riding on dirt bikes in fields. So I wanted to have a shot and showed off, and turned out I liked it better than they did. And that's been, where it's led. Proper little rebel. So I spent a lot of time doing rallies and, being parts of groups. Campaigning for secure motorcycle parking up in Aberdeen a long time ago. Deliberately started a female motorcycle group just to do that. I'd read an article in the paper about, these women moaning that multi-story car parks didn't have well-lit areas for them, when they're parking their cars, lonely, scary places. So I'd been involved with Motorcycle Action Group at the time, so I thought, I know what we can do. Let's start a female bike group and put pressure on the council. It worked. So, and we got the spaces. So that was really quite good. And then just carried on and off bikes with a mother of 4. So sort of I'm in the scene, I'm not in it. I'm now back. So trying to help get the cottage preserved for the future.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about the actual legacy group and probably at first how it came into existence? Yeah,
so a bit of myth busting. A lot of people, think that we've just come on board and formed because we want to take it over from the Davidson legacy, and that's not the case at all. What it is we heard on the grapevine, it was advertised in 2021 in the open market because the Davidson legacy 3 members want to retire, and the only offers they were getting were to, another fate again, build new houses onto it. So a bunch of bikers were sort of trying to organize themselves to find out more information. I heard about this, so I attended the meeting, and through that, we then formed the group in 2021 October. And yeah, so we'd miss Bill Davidson and everyone, we were just like aftermath. But yeah, so we formed the group, and first it started off with, bikers for bikers, all this kind of stuff. And as we sort of, were raising more awareness about it, we were learning more about it. The community were coming on board. There was people that have come on board that are like more into textiles, they're into history, all these kind of things. So they've come on board and joined the group as well. So there's a much wider audience and much more interest in it than just, a biker haunt.
What would you say are the main aims for the legacy preservation group, and what would you say are your main challenges at the moment?
When we first started, we soon realised that there's a lot of people who didn't know about the cottage, and to quote Mike and Maggie, and that is they were scared of being a victim of their own success, so they didn't really promote it as a proper tourist attraction, because it was a labour of love. It was a part-time thing because they were working full-time, all those kind of things. So it was, people had heard about it but never been to it, on that doorstep kind of thing as well. So our biggest challenge was to raise awareness. And as we were doing that, we were discovering that more and more people were coming, and that this actually, the need from the community was they want it open full-time. Mike would share with me many a times that people were coming in and the venue would be shut, and you'd get pictures of them with their bikes parked outside it. So we soon learned that, going forward, our aims changed, and it was, we're going to have to hire a project worker to make sure that this is open full time. We're not going to be able to just manage this, as volunteers, having it open at the weekend. There's actually a bigger demand for it than we expected. Other aims, so that's the raising awareness. So, but the biggest one is obviously to preserve it for history. We've had people say, well, if I won the lottery, I'd buy it. And I'm like, but then we'd be here again in 10 years' time when you retire. So this way, we're hoping us oldies will be able to pass it on to the next generations and, educate them, and it'll just be preserved forever.
So rather than it being purchased by an individual or group of individuals like Mike did, it's actually owned by an entity.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't matter then, whoever, it will change hands, but the entity will stay the same.
Yeah. So we've progressed from, so we're the Davidson Legacy Preservation Group, but within that, we've actually managed to set up a charity, which is the Davidson Legacy Cottage. So it's a case of, so we're a registered charity with the Scottish Government, and that's all set up and got our registration in December last year. And
that's no easy feat.
No, it wasn't. It's been a big learning curve. Sometimes winging it's not so good. Sometimes you got to get a little bit more help. Yeah,
I would say that was more of a vertical climb than a curve, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I think somebody handed me a big shovel when I first started on this. Kind of feels like it sometimes. But yeah, so the charity status is in place. We've been raising funds because one of the things that we have to do is to obviously raise funds to purchase it. But along that is obviously do funding applications, all these kind of things. But it's chicken egg thing. If we don't raise funds, we won't get funders to fund, to give us. And they're like, so people are like, but if you're going to get funding, why do you need to raise funds? And it's like, because they won't give us money. And yeah, but we've been doing really well. Since March, we launched the new Davidson Legacy T-shirts made by Roadskin. And we were at a motorcycle show, and we've been selling them since then. Roadskin have been a great support to us. And we've just recently, in the last 2 weeks, launched a collaboration with Angus Alchemy, who produce moonshine. They've got a lovely little distillery here in Angus.
This is where Jared's ears would pick up. He likes an old moonshine or a poaching, as they call it over here, ponchine. I can't pronounce it properly, so forgive my English. But it's basically a bootleg. So, yeah, we'll have to get a little bottle of that for him. Actually.
Definitely. Well, this is the thing. So it's called Motor Moonshine, and it's got the Davidson Legacy logo on it. And it's lovely. We had the group's all been involved in all the visitors on the day that Angus Alchemy were at the cottage. We've all had a wee sample of it, and we all voted on the 3 bottles. And this is the one we've released is, really, it's lush. It's made with honeyberries. And honeyberries, so what they've done is they've focused on Angus, and what they've thought about is, what time period, what fruit and veg and all these kind of things was being grown at the time of, the Davidson family were in the cottage, and honeyberries were very popular then. They've kind of died out and they're kind of coming back again. And they're delicious. So it's honeyberries and a bit of caramel, and they're proper moonshine recipe. A lot of people think that it's like, oh, is it wet? Is it like gin? Is it whiskey? It's like, no, it's proper moonshine. And Campbell from Angus Alchemy will tell you that one of the great things that the Scots and the Irish did were take over the lessons of moonshine to America and teach them how to do it. So.
Well, listen, the Irish and the Scots really do know how to do it properly, don't they? I can say this quite comfortably as an Englishman. We just play it, really. I think we produce horrible lager and sell it by the absolute truckload. Have you tried this moonshine? Have you, Mike?
Yeah, I have done. It's I don't drink, but it's actually got a nice taste. You can sip it. Rather than just knock it back kind of thing. And yeah, it's very, very pleasant, Or you can add a mixer to it and knock it back or whatever you want. It is, honestly, it's very versatile. And my husband can vouch for that one. So him and his mates all had, because Angus Alchemy do other moonshines as well. And they had an evening of sampling all the moonshines. So yeah, it was
brilliant. I'm sure that was a cracking morning the next day.
It sure was. And one of our barriers though is that we can't sell bottles of moonshine when we're out and about at the moment because we don't have a license.
Of course.
Angus Alchemy provided us a lovely sort of poster with a QR code that we can take around with us to events and stuff, and people can order online, and generally it's like next day delivery. We haven't broken into the American market yet. Due to the fact that they're just trying to set that up. There's a lot of legalities behind that. So hopefully this time next year, they'll be in a position that they'll be able to ship to America.
They're supporting you financially, are they?
Well, it's a case of for every bottle that's sold, that bottle raises £20. So they'll donate £20 to us.
That's a big donation, really.
It is. And that's what I like about the company is because they're not precious. They're about community. They're about, that whole thing. So, and it is that, so when you go and visit the distillery, they're very welcoming, very similar ethoses to the Cottage. And, you're welcomed with open arms and they will show you around. You can book sort of distillery tours and do all that kind of stuff. And, and they've got gins and whiskies and all the rest of it from all over from other distilleries. So if you did an Angus distillery tour, it's definitely worth a stop by. So
yeah, definitely. So again, for those of you listening and watching, I'm going to include links at the bottom of here for this moonshine and also to Roadskin as well. I actually got in touch with them, hope you don't mind, before today here, because I know that they've been supporting you. And I said to Mark, does he want to say a couple of words? This is what he said. He said, when I first met Nairi at the Scottish Motorcycle Show in 2022, and she discussed the cottage and the plans, etc., I was completely blown away. So much so that I said to Ian, this is something that we should be involved with, and they try as best we can to support and promote via Roadskin. So begun the relationship with the cottage, and we do what we can when we can to assist them and ultimately help them to achieve their goals. Again, I'm going to put a link into a particular T-shirt, I believe, is one for yourselves.
That's right.
There is another way for people to support, isn't there, via Roadskin, not necessarily just with the T-shirt? That's
correct. So there's a code that they've come up with that's called TDL, and that is the Davidson Legacy. So if you're ordering a new pair of Roadskin jeans, jacket, anything, any of their products, if you put that code in at checkout, that will automatically donate 10% of whatever you've purchased to save the legacy, save the Cottage campaign.
Yeah, again, that's a really generous thing from the company. And see, with the number of people, even in Scotland and Ireland alone, that drink, one bottle of moonshine to each of those drinkers in Ireland or Scotland, I'd probably put you quite close to where you need to be, really, wouldn't it?
Well, that's it. I mean, to be honest with you, we wouldn't be where we are now without the help and support of road skin. They come on board when I was wandering around the motorcycle show with my little flyers hidden in my jacket and hand them out to people and speaking to people, because you need permission to do that kind of stuff, and I didn't have it. So I was, being a bit cheeky as I am, and they turned around and said that, they would not only, print our flyers for us and send them to us because they knew it cost money. They would also get their design team to help revamp them and redesign the flyers. And that has just been, to be able to tap into that professional skill, has just been awesome. We've been able to speak to them about developing t-shirts to have available at the cottage, because one of the things that came from the community was, the lads were saying, and lassies, when they were coming to the cottage, they wanted to buy a t-shirt from the experience of being there. So it was,
everybody wants the t-shirt,
yeah.
Don't they?
So, and it was like, we were looking at going, we've just started, we're new, we've only been going, 6 months at that point. And it was like, where are we going to get the money to upfront t-shirts? So we couldn't afford to do that. So it was great that, with discussions and things, we've designed this is what we call our vintage style t-shirt. And, they literally forked out for it, said, look, you guys sell your t-shirts, and when you've got enough money to cover the cost of them, when you've returned it, then that'll be it. So we've had no upfront costs whatsoever, and they're 100% behind us.
That's a big help, isn't it? Not having the upfront costs.
Yeah. Thunder in the Glen is a case of we're going to be up there, and we'll be on the roadskin stall, same as what we were this year, selling the t-shirts and, helping them out, if we can, if they get too busy. And and I mean, the flyers are developing all the time, and we're learning from the community. One of the biggest ones was there's no map on it. Everybody's like, where is it? Where is the cottage? And they're trying to visualize it, because, trying to say it's in between Forfar and Brecon on the back road doesn't really work when you're, in Glasgow. So it's a case of, so we're in talks. So Mark was away at the one of the shows this weekend, the ARF. The
adventure bike one, was it?
Yeah. So they were there. So we're going to be catching up this week, and we're going to be working on revamping the flyer to make sure it's got that kind of information on it. And so we're only as good as the, people let us know. So, because we forget, because we're doing it all the time, that, it's we know where it is.
On that, so obviously one of the biggest riding challenges in the UK would be the Land's End to John O'Groats. In fact, one of our previous guests runs the Iron Hog ride. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of that, where basically they have a minimum amount of time and they have to visit X number of dealerships, and then they get a half-hour window extra, and they get a patch for it. Everyone would, it's amazing what we'll do for a patch or for a T-shirt. And the latest iteration of it is called the Iron Hog Ride Extreme, which includes the same challenge, but also going from Land's End to John O'Groats, or from John O'Groats to Land's End. Geographically, what we're looking at for a diversion, or on the way back from John O'Groats back in towards any part of England or other parts of Scotland, how far off the beaten track are we?
Do you know what? Coming up from Edinburgh, if they're doing the Edinburgh dealership, they could come up from Edinburgh, head to Dundee, go to Aberdeen, and then head to Inverness. It's actually a better road anyhow. So,
well, that might be something for your website then, actually, because there is. I mean, certainly for over here, we would have groups of bikers. Although we're very lucky in Ireland, we still have groups of bikers going across to do the North Coast in Scotland, or they do a trip around Wales. But to factor in a visit to the cottage, I understand at the moment you're not open 7 days a week, but if a group of bikers was going to be passing on, say, any particular Wednesday, is it completely out the game for them to get inside, or is there a way for them to arrange that?
People can get in touch with me. My phone number's on the website, and it's mainly folk from America, Canada, they'll get in touch and say, look, I'm coming over on such and such a day. It's a Thursday, but that's all I can do. So, yeah, I've got enough time to go along and show them around, you know. So no, that wouldn't be out of the question. Definitely not. But I would need to know beforehand. I would need to know maybe a couple of days beforehand, you know.
There's the Davidson Legacy website, and then of course we couldn't just take over the Davidson Legacy website because we haven't bought the cottage yet. You know, all these kind of things. So we're worried that people are going to get lost. You know, so it's a case of if you find yourself on the Davidson Legacy main website, that's great. Shout and Mike. But if you go into the Davidson Legacy Cottage.org, that'll come to us, you know, or the Davidson Legacy Preservation Group Facebook. So it is kind of confusing, but it all reaches the same place, the same aims. Mike and I speak, you know, if I get a shout that, you know what I mean, you know, then I let Mike know, vice versa. And, you know, we'll support, you know, each other. So please, just doesn't matter what site you're on. But Mike's your best bet just now because obviously we don't have a project worker in place to have it, you know, somebody manning it.
Presumably, one of the aims of the Legacy Preservation Group is to ultimately get the cottage open on a much more regular basis.
Definitely. So we want to open full time. We've been speaking to Visit Scotland, and they're willing to help us once we get ownership of it to get some accreditation, which will then get us our brown signs. But we can't do that until it's actually open full time. So the other part of that is for our moving forward, our charitable aims. Being a youth worker myself, we want to be doing a lot of youth work and, you know, inspiring young people, not just on the motorcycle things, but on the history and all that. We're looking to get the local colleges hopefully involved in creating some period costumes. And, you know, there's just so much that could be done. For our sustainability, we're looking to be hiring out the venue as for your wedding ceremonies to come up, and we're looking for an Ironhead engine to mimic the Gretna Green anvil. So we're thinking if you can get married, you got that engine, you know. So renew your vows, you know, you never know, we might start doing christenings, you know, whatever. But that would be our sort of sustainability, bring in funds, maybe develop a wee cafe. So, because at the moment people are sort of like shouting, saying, "Oh, can you put on a barbecue for us?" And it's like, that's an awful lot of work, and food hygiene certificates and permissions, and you know, it's a lot of work. So, we're earing towards. We've got a couple of folk that got burger vans and, you know, stuff like that. So we're getting them to come out, and, you know, but longevity wise, if we've got full time project workers in place, or, you know, 2 part-times, it will make life so much easier. And especially for like some funding applications and
lots of different people from lots of different walks of life that listen into the show. So, what would be a real string to your bow at the moment, so far as a profession? Obviously, you don't need a cook, so who would maybe you do, I don't know, but you know, what profession would really help you out at the moment? And if they're listening and willing to get involved, obviously we can make the connect.
That would be really appreciated. You know, I mean, the thing is with us, it's the volunteers that are involved. It's a case of, you know, they're not doing it because they've got spare time. You know, they're actually doing it because it's, you know, it's the heart, it's what they want to do. Because most of them are all working full time, managing their lives, and are taking time out to do this. This isn't a case of we're all sitting doing nothing, and, you know, so whoever does come on board will totally appreciate their help. But the first one that's high on the mark at the moment would be more a solicitor lawyer style, because it's that process of transferring the you know, purchasing and, you know, all the legalities that go behind that. So, and that's what I'm saying. So it might be folk that just want to dip in, give us a bit of advice. The other one would probably be around the PR stuff. I try my best with Facebook. I'm not that great with Instagram. You know, people are telling me I need to do this and I need to do that, and I'm like, phew, I'm 5'2". It's gone right over my head. So it's, you know, we're doing our best. So, and it doesn't matter if you're local or you're international. We had one of our trustees is up in Thurso, and he travelled all the way down to Glasgow to be there for the weekend, and at West Coast Harley, and it's the case that he helped us out, and then he's away back up the road, and then we do our meetings. We try and make them blended, so we've got online meetings and in-person meetings so that everybody can join in no matter where you're from. Maybe somebody that's got a Wi-Fi company, because the cottage needs Wi-Fi. We spend a lot of time going out to other venues to try and do these blended meetings. But it would really, really be beneficial, not just for meetings at the cottage, but for other services using the cottage. It might be good. We could have maybe like a small virtual tour for maybe if somebody comes out of hours. All these kind of things would make a huge difference.
Well, there you go. If you're listening, particularly as a solicitor, and you're willing to give some of your time, which is really what you're asking for, isn't it? Because where you can save costs, you can build monies.
Yeah, and I mean, there was a lovely lady who mentioned about, because I was talking about the grounds work, and is it a BBC Scotland thing was like some like ground force or something like that, or it could be another channel, I don't know. And she was like, oh, they would love to get involved. They could come and help you. And I'm like, cool, you write to them. I'm like, I've got so much other stuff that I'm meant to be doing. It's like, this isn't precious. You don't have to tell us your ideas. It's like, if you have an idea, just do it. Another guy's actually contacted Billion.
Yeah, the Australian fella, $1 Million Bogan.
Yeah, and I'm like, yeah, I've tried contacting him, and he's like, oh, well, I have again. I says, well, you keep at it. Feel free. If anybody's got any ideas and things like that, yes, throw them at us, but also feel free to ask for us. I
don't think that even the Amazon guy could find the $1 Million Bogan at any one point in time.
Yeah.
He just seems to be completely in a world of his own. He's living the dream.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. It's those kind of things that it's like, it's going to take everybody's help. We can't do this on our own. I mean, I say it quite a lot. It is a community effort. But the one thing I do know is that the biker family are really good at stepping up in need. And, they were raising funds for like the local children's hospital in Glasgow at West Coast at the weekend, and at the same time it's like that's where I'd like to see us in 5 years' time, that we own the cottage, that we're sustainable, that we're managing, and then we can give back to the community, and then we can start giving the blood bikes and local charities and hosting events. That's our long-term game, is that we're sitting pretty and we don't have to worry about anything. And at the same time, bear in mind, we're also wanting to keep it free and open, that anybody can come past, that they're always going to have that, what I call the typical Scottish welcome, where as soon as you show up, you're like, put the kettle on, have a cuppa.
Same as over here.
Yeah. So that's the ethos that we want to keep going, so that it's inclusive to all. Doesn't matter what your background is. I mean, you ask any young person, any small kid even, name a type of Harley-Davidson. Name a type of motorcycle, and they'll say Harley-Davidson, and it's like, how do they know that? If their families aren't bikers, and but the kids all know it, Harley-Davidson.
Yeah, I always say the curbside appeal of Harley-Davidson. You don't have to enjoy bikes. You don't even have to be interested in bikes at all. Harley-Davidsons, you'll stop and look at one. You'll turn your head when it goes past you. There's just no getting away from it. So no, I think you're absolutely right. Mike, yourself, when once the legacy group eventually has the property taken over and moving forward, is that you? Will you be walking away from the cottage, or are you going to be?
No, I'll still go there on a Sunday. I'll be able to relax a bit more. But yeah, I just think it's great that the group are continuing the way that we started off. But they've opened the floodgates, really. We thought it was bad enough dealing with it on a Sunday afternoon. But yeah, I mean, it could be a lot bigger, but quite scary at the same time. But no, I'll still go there. And I seem to be kind of into boring people these days, so I think that's what you do when you're older. So
no, okay,
I'll tell stories.
I think we were speaking off camera. you when you find yourself saying the same things because you're talking all the time, you start to think, don't you, like, oh, I'm boring people.
Yeah.
But the reason you're saying it so many times is because so many people are interested in it, and that's why you're repeating yourself. So no, good work. As far as people listening, the motorcycle community as a whole, how can we go about helping? Is it purely fundraising? Would that be the number one goal at the moment?
I think it has to be at the moment. I'm fundraising. It'll get us the space because I'm speaking to so many different services, and they're keen. From mental health services like we've got Andy's Man's Club and many others that are out there, and we've got young people services that are wanting to come and join in youth work. But same again, we don't own it yet. We don't have a project worker in place yet. So I can't give them a time and a place to come. So I'm looking at my diary thinking, when can I book annual leave off so I can come and meet you? And it's all these kind of things. We've got 2 wooden motorcycles getting built, and they're going to be really cool. They came out of a joke. This the story of, it's like a rustic wooden motorcycle, and it's like Harley wouldn't start, wooden. And so from that, it developed this silly idea that actually I'd just come from a youth work session. Well, to get these 2 wooden motorcycles built, they'll be like jigsaw puzzles, and it'll be like the old rally games where you like race to build them and all these kind of things. And so those are the sort of things that we want to happen. But really, we can't do it until we own it and we've got all that kind of stuff running. So fundraising, I mean, you can buy a T-shirt, you can donate on our Facebook page. There's our website, Davidson Legacy Cottage.org, has got the link to the PayPal that you can donate. So, which I believe PayPal is like universal to the whole United States and Europe, and everything can go on. And then the other side is come along and see us. Come and get the story. I mean, for us, Mike coming along is, if Mike's there, it's a bonus. It's like, hey, you can get your tour from Mike. That's the special part. So we still want him coming along and doing the tours and things. And, we're still learning. I mean, every time Mike speaks, I hear something new. And I think, wow, I didn't know that one. I missed that one, or I forgot about that one. So it's great, to have that, connection, to be able to take that forward and preserve the future of the cottage and make sure it's there for, my kids and their kids and all the rest of it. And I think one of the other side of that is that, we talk about, I was speaking to a journalist and he said, you're taking it to its next level. And I went, pretty much basically that's it. They've done the hard work, they've set the foundations, and now we're just going to ramp it up and make it brilliant for everyone.
In which case, Nairi, Mike, thank you so much, and the very, very best of luck. Make sure you keep us informed as well.
We will do. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thanks, Kenny. Take care. Bye.